see, it's 7 o'clock. We'll go ahead and call the Nottingham Planning Board meeting for Wednesday, June 26, 2024 to order. Before we begin, we'll go around the room and have members introduce themselves, starting on my right.
Robert Davies, alternate.
Skip Severance.
Chris Evans.
Edward Veal.
Drew Stevens.
Doug Cummings.
Blair Haney, SRPC.
And Mr. Davies will be seated in voting tonight in place of Mrs. Bascom. So we have a couple of items on the agenda for tonight. The first is an application for case 24-009 Nottingham Business Park 145 Old Turnpike Road. It's an application from Scott Frankwitz on behalf of Nottingham Business Park LLC to bring the site up to a condition that will be presentable to the end user. The site was substantially completed by the former owner. The current owner would like to use the original plans created for USA Springs, Inc. This property is located at 145 Old Turnpike Road, Nottingham, New Hampshire, and identified as tax map 3, lot 10. So a point of order on this one, I may have erred as chair. I was trying to be as accommodating as possible for the town and the applicant to get them on the earliest agenda that we possibly could. But in reviewing the RSAs on notification and timelines, RSA, I think it's 676, can I borrow that again? Sorry, I left my book at home. RSA, I'll let the board discuss and applicants can definitely share their point on this before we go further. 676.4, board's procedures on plats. 1B indicates 1B and then letter I. The applicant shall file the application with the board or its agent at least 21 days prior to the meeting at which the application will be accepted, provided that the planning board may specify a shorter period of time in its rules of procedure. I reviewed our bylaws and our site plan regulations, and I couldn't find anything in there that, within our rules of procedure, that authorize us to shorten that timeline. So again, I was trying to be as accommodating as possible to make sure we could get things on the agenda, but I may have overstepped in my capacity as chair with something that I don't have the authority to do by our bylaws or by the RSA.
Is there allowance for the fact that it said 21 days before the meeting that you accept it? And if you don't accept it tonight, it could still be.
Right. I mean, we can. I think
I guess it really still isn't much
it's a
of a.
splitting of a hair. I mean, we can potentially have conversation without, but it's gonna have to be pretty high level.
Yeah.
The same kind of conversation we would have before acting on application completeness would be the only thing I could think of, without potentially, getting in the way of abutters and abutter notifications and all those pieces.
Yes, but all those things happened, right? The posting and the butters notices and all that kind of stuff happened.
They did. We had a letter from at least one abutter indicating that they just received their notification, but regardless of when people receive it, it's when did we receive it as in the town and
Right.
send it out. And I believe we received it on the 13th of June, so 13 days ago.
But all the other administrative tasks were done.
Yeah, the abutter mailings and such.
Yeah.
So I'm always try to be of the try to not waste people's time or money, but especially time with things that includes the board and the applicants and the butters. So I think we're kind of in a quandary. I welcome Ms. Frankwitz. You obviously have some probably quite a bit of understanding of some of these as well from dealings with other boards. So if you want to kind of speak towards your thoughts on that RSA, if you agree or disagree, let me know, please.
Yeah, Scott Frankos with New Hampshire Land Consultants, for you that don't know me. What we're here for tonight is really a preliminary discussion anyways. We're not asking the board to make a decision or even accept the application necessarily, but to get this ball rolling. It's been a long process, and with the client having a permit to make the building weather tight, now we have to deal with the water, and that's really what we're trying to do, is just that. It doesn't got an end user yet. So I understand, even if it's a non-binding discussion, which it may have to be, that's fine.
Yeah.
Can we change to a conceptual discussion?
Can I ask a question?
Of course.
You know, if we're here to, if board has to consider whether to accept the application tonight or another meeting, that means they have to have everything properly before them. What would you be able to submit that would help the board see that it's it's a completed submission and would help explain your approach to the water? What documents that we don't have now?
Well, everything, if you want, I can do a little presentation to kind of go from where it was to where it is now. There was a drainage report and all that stuff done in the past, last year, and submitted and accepted. But then the application, and it got reviewed by CMA, and then the application died, and it was, I think, taken off the agenda for the planning board. So there's everything in place already. There's drainage report and stuff that we can submit, that a new engineer is gonna be stamping and reviewing. But really, we're not looking for a final approval on a site plan because we know don't know the user yet. So until that user is found, the parking lot may change, everything may change, but the drainage for the building isn't gonna change. It is a 4-acre building that they wanna put a roof on, that's gonna become impervious. Right now, there's a roof on it, but it's leaking through, and it's gravel in the bottom, so everything's infiltrating in the bottom. But once you tighten that up, we gotta deal with that water, and that's where we're at.
And the
really.
drainage structures, when they put the roof on originally, did they not complete the drainage structures and things
The
like that?
downspouts and stuff, no downspouts.
No downspouts are in yet. We have to put the roof drains in, downspouts, drainage in the building, go into the infiltration system. We kind of followed what they did last time, plus what they did. Little color, if it helps you guys, everybody understand. What happened was the engineer that was working on this, Denny Hamill, was Gammon originally. He really worked on it way back 15 years ago. Ran into some personal problems. His wife got sick. He had a child that passed away. So obviously, you gotta be human about that. Anybody that goes through that. So I was very obviously accommodating. What are you gonna do? He's the guy that knows the building. So a lot of it slide. Well, after he came out of that little bit of a funk, and again, this is the humanity part that I want everybody to understand why we ended up where we ended up. Then he gets into maybe last March, April, decides he's gonna retire. Now here, I spent $130,000 in getting all this work done, and the guy who knows everything is what? Leaving. You know what I mean? And it's like, I'm ready to throw my hands up and say, I can't believe this. And I get upset, I just said, look, maybe let's just withdraw. Let's, because I've got nobody to pick up the ball. Business wasn't great, so I said, I gotta take a pause. And then, it does give you some background. So now, I revisit this in the winter. I says, okay, look, I've had this thing for 2.5 years, 2 years or so. I got a rusty building that's kind of, doesn't look great. I think you all know that. I know the town's anxious to get it done. I have a big incentive to get it done. And I talked to a couple of guys of mine in the development business. I said, Tommy, he said, listen, he says, you're gonna go nowhere with this thing. It doesn't show well. If you bring a customer up here and try to get somebody going, it's like having a house 30% built. Roof's leaking, there's dirt everywhere, grass, it's a mess, right? If you're me, if any one of you are me, you're saying, okay, am I gonna go borrow millions of dollars and get it weather tight and then sit there doing this while the meter from the bank's running every month, right? I still gotta make the payments every month. And I finally said, I gotta do it. I have no choice. I'm a risk taker by nature. So I took a calculated risk and said, let's get going and trying to resurrect it again. So I called Scott, because I like Scott, he's done a good job with my neighbor, and hired Scott to do this. And so now, we want to get the building weather tight, so we're kind of on a timeline. It's not my fault, I talked to Blair a little bit about this too, and Dale. I says, I want to get the building weather tight by winter, right? You want to be working in the winter with snow, rain, and ice, and all that kind of stuff. So the town was very good, they accommodated us, we got a building permit, we worked it out with the planning board, got a building permit. We've actually paid for a building permit to finish the building, but unbeknownst to me, I'm thinking the site plan's good because water is water. Whether it's 15 years ago or it's now, there's still the same amount of water, unless the environment changes, we gotta manage. So I think that the site and the structures are gonna be okay, but we have to confirm that and bring it up to date, I get that. So what we have now is, we're a race to the clock to get the building stabilized, to get, because I get people, it's like getting a contract, get them scheduled, the roofer, the siding, the site guy, I've got everybody lined up to get this done, because I decided to put a major push on this. And like Scott said, we have to find a way to manage that water. It's kind of gonna be, I hate to say it, like, not an environmental disaster, but if you know what happened last week, we had 2.8 inches of rain, and it was a deluge over there. So we just have to find a way to get the water off the building and manage it. And what we're hoping to do, even if to find a temporary solution to do that while we go through and get the site plan, approved to the standards that we all want it to be at. So I hope that helped give you a little color on it. Sometimes understanding it, why did this happen? Why did you pull out? What happened?
It does, and obviously, we're in a unique position with this site specifically, because you did have, a partially constructed structure or whatever that was from quite a while ago, so it's not like most site plans we get that are either completely untouched or
Right.
it's a conversion of.
It was
something.
substantially
And
complete.
you have it in use in site, you can
Yeah.
do the calculations for driveway and roadway and traffic and septic and all those kind of fun things. So we are in a kind of unique situation where we're trying to work, the town, I think, is trying to work, everybody's trying to work together,
Yeah.
move forward, in a way that doesn't bind everybody's hands,
Yeah.
unnecessarily, or result in, when an end user is sought, that you're coming back before us for the updated site plan or amended site plan, and then have to redo infrastructure that, is very costly.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I've done my best, even like some of the detention ponds, they've been ignored. I mean, imagine after 15 years, there's saplings in there that's not really up to snuff. I've spent money and cleaned all those up to maintain the integrity. So I've spent money just to kind of keep that system going, and you're right. It's not like we have to go and log it, stump it, it's all been done, and really, nothing per se is really gonna change them. It's already been done to the site.
Yeah.
So we are in a unique position.
The problem though it's always, I think, anytime anybody hears USC Springs, I'm sure everybody, it's always like
Yeah, oh,
one of those moments, but anything that was before the board previously, my understanding is, all permits have expired, all approvals have been either revoked or have expired. The site plan, any of those calculations that were done were 15, 20 years ago, so everything's pretty out of date. Our regulations have changed. I don't know what the state stuff is, if any of that's changed with like AOT and things like that, with the calculation for rainfall events and all that. That's beyond my
Sure.
knowledge. But those were all, I think, things that had been brought up on the withdrawn site plan. I think we had gone through even the DRI process on that, Development of Regional Impact process, so there was comment that came back from that. So there was a lot of information that's occurred for the site, but where we're at tonight, I think is, well, A, can we do anything on it tonight for the application, which I really don't think we can, except for, guarantee that it'll be on the next agenda and to make sure that it's here, so we legally continue it. And we'd be able to act on it then. I think that would probably, that the town would be aware of that, you were here before us tonight. We, it's no fault of yours necessarily that we couldn't act on, the application tonight. It's the RSA that binds our hands. So I think that would, show them the kind of good faith. I don't think they'll allow any necessarily like site work to occur during that time until, you can get back before us, but, I guess that would be a conversation with the town, so. And the only other thing I would encourage is to make sure that, work with our circuit rider, our planner here with, Mr. Haney, just to make sure that when we do go to act on the application, that there's enough information there for us to act on completeness. Because again, last thing I wanna do is delay anybody's time or waste anybody's time, for that. Does the board have any questions, or again, we're kinda skirting it, staying high level to the most point, because we're in that little gray area of, we're not really taking jurisdiction over it at this moment, because we're just not within the window of time yet with the RSA.
I have a quick question, if I may. So, he simply wants to put a roof on the building to preserve the building, and we don't want to act on that because we haven't gotten an application that's completed. Is that what you're saying?
It's more than just the roof, it's because to do the roof, you have to do some site work. So you have to do some draining, add drainage structures, downspouts, things like that to account for, as Evan said, 4 acres of runoff that's
Right.
gonna occur. So where do you put that water and how do you handle it appropriately? And that's where we're getting into it. I think the town originally was, working with the applicant to allow them to enclose the building, just the building itself, but not without any understanding that there was gonna be any kind of site work that would have to be done for that.
Okay, thank you.
Well,
We have a building permit to finish the building, but you just like a catch-22, it's okay, great, finish the building, what do we do with the water?
well, isn't there a roof mostly on this building right now? I mean, I went up there and there's like, you'd see daylight here and there, but it's 95% coverage or something?
It's galvanized corrugated steel, and then what they do is they put the insulation on, then they put a rubber roof on it,
Okay,
and then do the drainage, so it's like having a roof on, but it's leaking, it's like
all right, so that's just like the base structure?
base
of-
structure,
of-
correct.
Okay, check.
I guess I have 2 questions. One is, it sounds like all they're looking for in regards to tonight is some sort of a site plan associated with drainage, not to the whole site plan for whatever the facility might become, right?
Yes.
I would say that if in a perfect world, again, you will have to determine if that happens, if we can just continue on, we got a building permit, we're gonna build, even if we got, even if you just guided us or said how you all feel, that we could at least temporarily use some of the drainage structure that we have now to manage the water
Right.
when we get the roof on, get it enclosed, but we would know that we would have to maybe make some modifications on a final site plan, so it'd be almost like a special exception to use, the detention pond's already there, the infiltration system is there, the pipes are kind of there. Now, if we have to modify it, we gotta modify it, but don't wanna waste money, we'd like to do it, but we're gonna try to, at least get a temporary way to manage the water. That's all that we would need. And then we go into a full-blown site plan after.
It seems like to me that, I don't want this to go very far along the route, because I don't think we're there yet. But if he's trying to close in the building and do that kind of stuff, and he's wondering where the water is gonna go, the water's gonna go where it has been going. I'm not saying that's a good thing or a bad thing. But it seems like whatever site plan review that needs to be accomplished needs to be looked at by the state, or at least somebody that does drainage type stuff and the connections to whatever exists. And I don't know if Scott does that or not, but I mean, to me, that seems like that needs to happen. But I see it as, I bought a piece of property, the house needs new siding and new roofing, and boom, I go and do it. You got the building permit to do it. Whatever was on site is on site, and that's where it had been going, will be going. Not appropriate, I would think, but this plan includes parking spaces and all that kind of stuff. I don't wanna see that kind of stuff yet, for me personally, because we're not talking about that. We're only talking about drainage for the building. He wants to close the building in. So, for me, some of these pages should disappear. For whatever we're talking about now. It's parking spots,
Yeah,
I'm not paving yet and all that kind of stuff.
and to
so
get in front of the board, what we did is we submitted
Yeah.
the plans that were submitted last year.
Right, I mean, you got lighting details and all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff in here.
This
You know, we're not
plan
there
kind
yet.
of shows what we're want to do.
Yeah.
Is the green is the existing building,
Yeah.
and the orange is the drainage infrastructure that has to be put in to manage that water.
Yeah,
The
And you guys are
bubble at
kinda
the end
doing
there
anyway,
is a
right?
detention pond already.
Detention pond's already there,
Oh, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
we just gotta run a pipe to it,
Nothing's in the ground, right?
nothing's in the ground, yeah, no.
So, these downspouts would all be connected, there's one pipe from here, and these are infiltration system that would discharge out there.
So the big orange is in,
That's a big detention pond that's in.
That's already
as-
and the big green is in,
Right.
is the infiltration in?
Partially, there's some there we stopped. It was going according to the plan. It's the same thing as the new one that was submitted last year, but we stopped on that. There's only it's a small proportion that's been done. But I think Scott's depicted it well. That orange is really what we're trying to get temporarily. It's not an approved site plan. It's just a way to manage the water once the roof's up. That's all we need to do. And then we'll go through the whole process and get it done right.
But I mean, when the roof was whole, it was doing what it was doing.
There was no roof ever on there.
No, but I mean
The sheet metal.
Oh, the sheet metal.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
the roof.
Oh, yeah, all right. Yeah, right.
It was doing what it was doing, so.
Bad roof, but yes.
Yeah, not, definitely not a good thing. I just don't see it as a planning board issue at this point in time, but,
No, the issue is if there's any, so like you said, you closing a structure, doing that, that's one thing, but if you have to do site work,
right,
that's where we're getting into the weeds of things with,
yeah,
you know, because again, then you get into, like you said, drainage and drainage studies and.
yeah. And what's gonna be inside the building?
Right, and use
is
is,
there too,
so,
so.
which the parking, which could all, you know, the roadway, all that could have to get revamped or changed, potentially, I'm not saying it would.
Isn't there some vested rights in the activities that they've done? They've put the roadway in, the entrance, they've built a building, foundation, structure, done a certain degree of improvements here. Isn't there vested rights that go along with, getting it up to a certain point on the state laws?
My understanding of that is anything that would have been vested would have expired a long time ago as well. It's been abandoned for well beyond any statutes, to my understanding. You know, usually, once you abandon a use for a certain amount of time, vesting goes away. You also have to show, if you look at substantial and active and substantial development, there's expenditures that have to occur in certain amounts. I don't have zero idea if that would have been met, but
Yeah.
to my understanding, anything that would have been considered vested or approved or anything on this site previously, long before the applicant had it, was
So
going.
they have to go into the state, for example, for a new driveway permit and the whole,
Once there's an end use.
Yeah, when the end user is known,
Yeah.
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 Does the state of New Hampshire, the DES, require a stormwater runoff procedure?
If you're over 100,000 square feet, you have to get an AOT permit.
You do, but you were under that.
Well, the original, no, the building alone is 175,000 square feet. So there was one approved originally in '05 that obviously has expired. There has been discussion with DES, AOT about a temporary solution, and they're open for the discussion, so that is part of the discussion we need to have too.
Yeah, because I think that even some of the wetlands I think there was like wetlands added and that had to be monitored for a certain amount of time. I think that was done for quite a while and stopped. But again, that's way back and.
Yeah, and as far as I understand, the plans that we submitted are new as of last year with wetlands and everything, right?
Yes, that's all been done,
Change along.
hydrology, it's all been done. I think the big question is, does the board think that you would be able to find a pathway to help us with a temporary solution to handle the water from the roof, just to manage it, while we go through the official process of getting a site plan, official site plan approved, and go through all those hoops, just so we can manage the water, that's all, that's really what we need help with.
Yeah.
And if we can do that, we know it would be subject to, like, we may have to make some modifications, or you might be okay with what was being done, I don't know where it's gonna land, but the temporary, if you can find a way to give us that temporary solution, like, I guess with the oranges, that would be a huge help, and then we go through a full bore site plan with all the updated regs and what we need to do.
I would
That's
expect-
probably a question.
I would expect that to put a roof on that building, it's gonna cost a lot of money.
$1.6 million.
So, and that's a big risk on your part. Because if I don't know what the board would say, but if any kind of say yes to that today, wouldn't that be implied or inferred a accepted application?
that's the way I
It's a
saw it.
liability, it's a risk.
Well, we got a building permit, so I think we have the right to put on, if the building is deteriorating, I mean, if you look inside, all the silt, the water that's in the, it's not good, because you can imagine the winter
Sure.
freezes, thaws. We've had a couple of the columns that's got splits because water got in it and expanded, so we gotta go and weld and fix. I've had a structural engineer through the whole building, so it's really just to preserve the integrity of what we have right now. And that's the reason to kind of make it, the first phase, like I said, to be weather tight. So when you bring a customer and then he looks like, wow, the building's there, the roof's on, you know, that's kind of like where we're at.
Sure, so, you know, to answer the question, or I think that the town and the board, you know, we always try to act within our, with what our purview is, and then there's some stuff that occurs outside of our purview. But I think we always try to be, you know, reasonable and find paths forward with things. You know, and site plans are a little bit different than a subdivision, right, you know, and things of that nature, so that's why we do have a little bit more leeway where sometimes it's non-engineered plans, you know, for very minor site plan stuff where it's even hand-drawn because it doesn't get necessarily recorded at the registry. So I think, to possibly answer the question, I think if things were worded in a way that clearly acknowledges that there's an understanding that if the board were to take any kind of final action on a site plan, that it may be a limited site plan and it does not bind the board for any future sub-site plan, and an amended site plan like we're doing for other lots in town has to be submitted once, you know, there's other things planned out. Because again, even like the septic and stuff like that could change because of who's gonna go in there, the size may change or whatever else, parking may have to change, all that, so. I think it's kind of a non-answer, but I think if you could present us with something, with some verbiage, towards what you're looking to accomplish.
And I think,
In a way that we could, you know, could move forward.
I think paring back, taking a lot of the noise out of the plan
Yeah,
to just exactly what we want to do is
for this piece of it, yes.
just for the
Exactly.
drainage
Exactly.
and that, and all the other stuff in there can come at a later point when there's
So
an
once
end
you get a
user.
site plan, it's like this, and someone's like, oh, wait, they had all this, they approved it, it's like, no, they approved, you know, something else, so yeah, so I think,
Do you see a way that we can do something with this?
not tonight, not,
Well, I'm not even sure we can do it at any point in time unless they go to the subsurface people and redo all that stuff. And he's looking for a temporary solution, which is what anybody would do if they bought the house that was leaking and it was doing its thing, you know? So I don't really see there's anything we as a board can do at this point in time, except to look at it. Don't want to reject it, that's not what we want to do, but I think anything we do to accept it is gonna have to be well-defined, and I'm not sure how you do that here.
did the DES or, I can't remember who else you said, you kind of in conversation with about AOT and then the drainage, you said that they were kind of looking at it and trying to figure out a path forward too. Did they give you any kind of like timeline when they may respond?
No, we wanted to have this meeting, get more input before we continued that conversation with them.
Yeah,
I didn't know
I
if like a
think-
letter from them of saying like, you know,
But-
same thing where,
Well, there's like no impervious surfaces there realistically right now, except for the roof,
Right,
which is somewhat. So all of the parking lot drainage and all that kind of stuff,
it's all gravel, so, right.
yeah.
right now it's just gravel.
Right now, the concrete slab
Kind of a pipe.
is,
So I think to kind of boil it down, what you could do, you know, nothing's gonna get accepted tonight, but what you could, we'll resubmit, we'll boil it down to what exactly we're asking. And like any site plan that you guys do, or subdivision, there's conditions of approval, and make that DES review or approval, or whatever we have to obtain from AOT to approve this, to prove that.
yeah.
Given this situation, will they entertain anything from you without hearing from us?
AOT?
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't ever require
Okay.
approvals. Oh, I mean, you guys are controlling that we have to get the AOT permit for the local approval, but,
But they'll still review.
But AOT isn't waiting for
Right.
approval
Right.
to do
Yeah.
their piece of it as well.
That's what I.
Right.
sometimes you'll go in with approvals, which isn't the best best way, because you wanna get through the town stuff, but the town kinda holds the cards with the design more than, you know. You wanna make all the changes the town wants before you go to AOT. But on this, we'll pare it down and tell them this is exactly what we wanna do and see if they can work with us.
So we're just bumping up with the timeline. So like July 10th is our next meeting. Next week, so we're usually not allowing any documents to come in next week because the land use office will be closed next week. So usually we're 7 days in advance of a meeting date, so we can review it. Does the 10th
How soon can we meet again, do you think?
the 10th is the earliest.
10th would be the earliest.
July is that our next meeting, yeah, so it's 2 weeks.
But that's getting stuff in by Friday, right?
Yeah, because otherwise, that Monday before, which would be the 8th, would be pretty tough.
Just so I can understand, so, again, what I asked the board earlier, if you can find a pathway to help us with a temporary solution, I think we're trying to find out, can we, if we came up with something for this temporary solution, but then knowing that we're gonna obviously reload and pull a full board, like focus on the orange area first, we can get that, kind of give us a temporary solution, then come in with a full-blown site plan and take the time to go through and do it properly. That would be a major help if we could do that, if you think that's possible.
I would ask the board if it would help at all, if in the next meeting, they brought us an approved stormwater runoff procedure from the New Hampshire DES.
Yeah, that won't happen
Even
in
a
a
temporary
month.
one, they won't do it?
They got a backlog of 39 days as it
Oh.
is, but
Okay.
we can start the conversation and try to push it through, I mean, as much as we can.
I mean, the good news, that detention pond was designed for that size building, and it's already in. So that's the good news. Just gonna take a pipe from the drain and run it to the detention pond. That's a big help. And the other infiltration one, same thing there. That would go, again, the orange pipe, then we just stop. No site work.
No, again, my
The
only
building's
concern, my only
tight.
concern with those was that,
Yeah.
if the calculations have substantially changed at all since those were designed.
Yeah. I think there was some of that stuff done in the submission we did last year, I think. Some of that has been
Yeah.
done. So we have some of that data, I believe.
Yeah, all the drainage and all that calculations are ready to go, just a matter of getting it back into the mix.
Yeah, again, the application that came in last year had a very large document with it, but a lot of, it seemed like it was, it seemed like it was either cut and pasted or just amended from the USA Springs one from many years before, which was not great, because there was a lot of problems with that piece prior, so. I think a lot of the comments had come back from the engineering firm and everything had kind of touched on a lot of that, so.
Yeah.
But again, if what you're discussing and potentially doing is stripping down this whole document, coming for us with a much simpler plan and asking for, a potential site plan approval of a very small piece of a site plan, knowing that.
And it sounds to me like we ought to be looking at July 24th to do this. Because I don't think, doesn't make any sense to rush redoing the paperwork. We're gonna lose a whole week before the July week. And that's still a long ways from winter.
Yeah.
Scott,
Yes.
for purposes of this, can you delete pages C1.11 on?
Yeah, it'll be pared down to just a few sheets.
That's really what you're gonna do, right?
Yeah.
So there can be a plan without those pages, right?
Yeah, it will really just be existing conditions, which is what this is, and then, well, that's really kind of
The other
a mix,
pages-
but,
Yeah, the other pages do show the specifics about the pond, the retention ponds and all that, so.
this is actually existing conditions out there, soil's on it, but shows the building, the gravel, and the pond, which what we'll be asking for is just that down there, so.
So you have to build all of it. You would have to build all the downspouts, the drains.
Well, everything on the
that goes to
building would have
pipe that
to,
runs to the retaining.
everything inside the building, all the downspouts, because they're all over the
Yeah,
place.
yeah, working on that now. Yeah.
Um,
And I got a roofer lined up to come in, you're trying to get everybody's schedule, even though I know winter's, like Buzz just mentioned, the winter's away, but everything is a schedule. The
Yeah.
roofer's gotta get on, then you gotta get the plumber in, then you get the siding, the window, this whole thing. I mean, we're gonna run into November pretty quick, believe it or not.
Winter will come fast.
Yes, it will, unfortunately.
We hope we can get this done for you well before that.
Right, I appreciate that, thank you.
Do you imagine, because a lot of times we don't do stormwater review at our level because AOT does it. Do you think that situation applies here? Should they expect it's part of a timeline to have, for us to have to send it out, wait for it to come back?
I don't have any of the.
I mean, I think for what they're
Sugar file.
proposing, and because these are there already, and again, knowing that if it were to be approved, that there would be the conditions and understanding that any further, work on the site is gonna require an amended site plan, which could then require all those studies and whatnot, and potentially alterations to drainage structures or things like that. So I think to answer your question is,
I'm talking just for this, what they're looking at right now.
no, the issue they could run into, obviously, any applicant could run into is, with these, when you get, it's chicken and the egg kind of thing, where it's, we approve it, but then AOT makes them do some substantive changes based on, something, so then they have to come back before us and amend it anyway.
Yep.
Because of, AOT says, no, we need a third structure, and it's not on the plan, and now you're changing the site again. Or they go there first, and then they can, so it's one of those things where I think you're potentially could have to amend it regardless of how you move forward.
Is this a more minimum plan than what's gonna be out there? I mean, obviously, they're gonna have 8 parking lots and parking and all kinds of other things going on. Is it this drainage satisfactory for just the building itself? Can that be determined?
I think that's what that would, kind of show us.
Yeah, 'cause you're not gonna have impervious, you're not gonna have paving and
Right.
other things, you're absolutely right.
So when you go to do that and change the site, if you're to pave it, that's an amended site plan, because it's changing all that, you're right, exactly.
Later on, it has to come
Yeah.
back.
So that may change the calculations too, so.
Can
Do we need to have CMA review it, do you think?
It's up to the board. I think we've had CMA review it previously, so we can go back through the comments that were already done and see if there was anything specific to drainage and things of that nature. If it was its prior application.
Yes, yeah, it's the same application, the same thing we submitted last year. I actually looked over the letter from CMA,
Which I guess, you're welcome to address it the next time before us, just their comments, if there's anything germane to this that needs to be incorporated or not.
I'm just trying to think about the process from moving forward from tonight, and what you guys can expect. Because we're trying to figure out a night or a meeting to get to, when to submit things, and then what do we do after that? What can we expect from your time?
Yep.
Parkway Ridge, and they had arrows, like, the water's going this way or that.
that would be helpful, Blair, just if
Well,
we,
yeah, I mean, it's, as Ed said, it is up to the board.
Yeah, well, that was
If you
pretty
have-
clear, that's, I think.
If you have the comments from CMA, you can kind of pick your way through them, because they're, you are asking for an isolated piece, unlike,
There's kind of like a thing here.
It appears to me that their next submission is gonna be a pretty small plan.
Yeah,
Something
it's gonna
that'll
be-
take me all of about 7 minutes to read.
yeah,
I mean, why push them off further? Because the land use office is closed for a week, and I know that's a challenge.
That's
So
the
it
challenge.
reopens when, on the 8th?
No, technically the 10th.
The 10th? Oh, okay, that might not work then. Day off. Trying.
And the 10th would be within that 21-day RSA.
We'd be
Past
past that, yeah, we're at date.
Good to make sure.
Yeah, it's 2 weeks from tonight, so that would be plenty.
are we,
You like a motion of something?
I think so. So I think I'm hoping we've given enough direction. Probably need an amended application or something like that to come through, amended plans. Anything you can do to address any prior comments or the drainage discussion we just had tonight.
Yeah.
To be able to be prepared to answer some of that for us, I think will help, or let us know where you are too with, if you are having to go through AOT and DES, if this is part of their purview.
So,
so are we treating the next submission as a new application
I was gonna call it, I think we could do it as an amended application.
to this one? to this submission?
I believe so.
Okay, so abutters have been notified, those steps don't need to be done.
No, we'd be continuing to do a date and time certain for tonight.
Okay.
I think that's procedurally okay.
I think it is too.
Yeah,
I completely do.
The butters were notified for tonight's meeting.
That put us, we still have to push out the date.
But they wouldn't get any notice of the extension or the continuance.
Even that, because we have to get stuff to.
There are no abutters here, right?
No, we had one abutter letter, which I held off on reading because of the, we didn't accept it, so.
So are you looking for a motion to continue the acceptance of the application to the next meeting? Is that the?
Just a motion to continue the case.
Okay. I'll make a motion to continue the case to the July 10th meeting, 7 PM.
July 24th.
Yep,
Oh, I guess
24th.
there's, okay, sorry, I thought there was some confusion.
10th is the
then.
day that the land use office opens back up
Right,
again.
okay, I thought we were
So,
going speedy
let's
speedy
do it
on
the
it.
next meeting.
Okay, the 24th at 7 PM, July 24th at 7 PM.
And you should reference case number 24-009.
Yes, referencing case number 24-009, site review plan for Nottingham Business Park.
So the motion, is there a second?
I'll second that, Drew.
Motion by Mr. Stevens, a second by Mr. Cummings to continue the case to July 24th at 7 PM. It wasn't stated in the motion, but we should say deliverables at least 1 week ahead, so that's
Okay.
the 17th. Any further discussion on that motion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, that motion carries 6-0.
We just have one
If I
thing.
may, point of order, if I may. Tim Phoenix, I'm counsel to Tom and the business. I'm just sitting here wondering whether we need to renotice, I'd rather not, abutters. If they were given notice of a meeting for tonight that was not sufficient, normally what happens, if they get enough notice, then they're on their own. They've got to make it known. But if they didn't get proper notice of this meeting and we continue it without giving them notice, I have a question as to whether or not they've gotten proper notice.
I mean,
They did get proper notice this evening. It went out 10 days.
Okay.
yeah, it wasn't, the notice, it wasn't the problem with the date of the notice going out, because the notice went out on time. The problem is with the RSA saying that we can't act on that the applicant shall file an application with the board or its agent at least 21 days prior to the meeting at which application will be accepted.
Right, and that's my, and thank you.
So that was-
I know they got notice,
Yeah.
but if they didn't get the notice, if the notice didn't meet the requirement of the application being 21 days before the hearing, I just have a question. I mean, I'd rather not do it, but for the sake of the cost of sending out,
The fact that it's another month, it's out from now, if, to be on the safe side, renoticing.
yeah, it's a little bit of an
It doesn't
expense, but
hurt.
I think you should do
It
it.
doesn't hurt to do it.
Or, I don't have any more money.
Can't afford it.
It doesn't
Yeah,
hurt to-
I just told him, I think we should do it, we'll get you the check. Then nobody, I don't want to see all of us go forward, and then, a month down the line or 2 months, somebody says, by the way, I didn't get notice, and there's been a lot of time and
I can
expense.
appreciate that. Again, it's an ounce of prevention kind of thing where.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a bit of a cost, but if you do it, you've got that base covered. So I think, yeah.
So I'll coordinate with Scott to get you the right check to the notice and then abutters notices.
You didn't include labels last time.
Yeah, Scott, you didn't include labels.
I'll pass that.
So if you just make sure you
I
you
can-
include the.
I can do the labels if you, you got the
Yeah.
abutters list? Give me,
Yeah.
I'll get it. I'll work with you along that.
Withdraw the application. I think they're just gonna renotice that the application has been submitted and it's been continued to, I think.
Does that give you
All
enough
they're talking
time,
about is
Alana?
just renoticing. So we do that sometimes with cases that continue for a long time.
When you get back,
Renoticing. Okay.
oh,
Can do them this Friday?
oh, this week?
Or when they ask
Oh,
for
Yeah, we'll get them down.
conditional approval, they have to renotice that too, because it's being reheard, it wasn't a date time certain.
Sure.
So, okay.
Well, thank you.
Thank you all. Appreciate your time tonight.
Thank you.
How was breakfast, Scott?
Just give everybody a minute to they clear out before we go into the next item.
Get me through till now, so.
Yeah.
So the next item on the agenda is a case, so that was it for the public hearings. Other business, case 24007 Conceptual Bassett Lamprey Drive. We continued it to tonight, hoping that we'd have response from town council. We got that back very late today. So I'll have Alana distribute that to the members. Again, everything from council is confidential information between attorney-client privilege. So we will, when we go to discuss that, we would go into non-public, leave the room, and have a conversation about it, and then either seal the minutes or decide to vote to allow it to be on public record. So, Mr. Bassett, Alana had let him know that we had not had a response yet from council, so I just recommend that we continue that case to July 10th. It's a conceptual, so technically, there's a lot of leeway on this. We usually don't continue conceptuals, but we did on this one because the board was looking for clarification of something on our end.
Do we need to do any motion on extending that?
Yeah, if we can have a motion to continue to July 10th at 7 PM, that'd be great.
I'll make a motion. Case number 24-007 Conceptual for Bassett on Lamprey Drive, to continue until July 10th. And that's it,
At 7 PM.
7 PM. Thank you, sir.
Second.
So it's a motion by Mr. Evans, second by Mr. Davies. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 6-0. Ilana, if you could just let Mr. Bassett know that we did continue it till the 10th, and we do have response, so we'll be able to hopefully have some motion on, movement on that one. Looks like we have a Mylar to be signed for case 23009 SUB. We'll do that at the end of the night. I think Mr. Haney has already reviewed that against conditions.
Yeah, he submitted revised plans per the notice of decision, the conditions of the notice of decision, and then submitted the monumentation. So those are the things that we're waiting for.
All right, that gets us through the other. Public comment, this is the time of night where we always reserve time for the public to come before us and ask questions about the zoning process, subdivision process, site plan process. Just can't be application or case specific. So anybody that just has general questions for the planning board, you're welcome to come in or email us and we can add you to the agenda. I have had a few emails that I need to get to Alana if the land use clerk wasn't CC'd on it, that I think I'd like to invite Lamprey River Advisory Committee in to have them kind of give us an overview of what their role is in when they have, I guess not purview, it's when RSAs and such put something on their plate for comment, what their purview is and what they would like to see come back from them, for acknowledgement of that and such. So that'd be a future meeting, one of the next, hopefully, meetings that looks like the agenda might be lighter. I'll extend an invite out over there.
What is their reach, from the Lamprey River? Like, does it fit this application, for example?
No, so usually anything that's impacting the shoreland, SWQPA, Shoreline Water Quality Protection Act, areas, so designated river corridors, so Lamprey River area, the RSAs give them purview to review and submit comment, is my understanding. That's why we've had a few letters from them for cases that are impacting those areas. But I'd like to just understand a little bit better of what they do, what they would like to, what they send to us, and, I guess if there's communication that should be going back to them as to, yes, we received it, what did we do with the suggestions that they made, and things like that.
Okay.
How do they find out about it? Do we do it in the manner of allowing other towns to know what we're doing, that kind of thing, or?
So technically,
I'm just wondering.
it's a good question. So I know how we've done it. Technically, it's usually that some member, so either the applicant has identified that they're in that area and they're gonna fall to that and
Right.
have to notify that commission. So it goes out as almost like a butter notice.
Yeah.
And everybody speak to me if I'm wrong, Blair and Alana. But I feel like the way it's been done oftentimes is a member of this board has recognized that it's in that zone and makes that, points out that they're gonna have to have a chance to review it and provide comment before we can act on the applicant, or act on the we can accept the application, but before we can act on. You know,
The reason I ask is it seems like there's a ton of different groups out there that probably could have purview and comment. And I'd never heard of the Lamprey River Advisory Committee before, but council.
Yeah, so it's, technically, I think anything beyond us is up to the applicant
Yeah.
to have to make sure, but again, if they don't, it's like the state, if you don't know you need a permit, or you don't go for a permit, and we don't condition that, and they go do their thing and do it without the permit, it could bite them later, it could come back and haunt them, or
Right.
whatever, but, you know, we try to, I think we're pretty good as a board at pointing out as much as we're aware of. But, you know, in the end, it's always the applicant's responsibility.
So just informational more than specific to a case is what you're suggesting?
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely not
I think
case
that's a good
specific.
idea.
But, you know, unless it's an approved case that's already gone through, you know, looking back and say, okay, here's what we gave you guys on this case that was approved, you know, how can we improve conversation back? Same thing with like, if we send stuff out to CMA, how can we make sure that we're improving our communication there to, so they're either not working on stuff that we don't need them to work on, or, you know, they're not working on stuff again that's already been addressed.
Yeah, I did look at, there was something that came from Raymond, and I think to our email about an impact outside of the town.
Yeah, so we've got, I'll go into those now. We have two.
Can I just want to speak to what you were
Please.
just talking about real
do.
quick. I'm trying, as I'm talking, I'm trying to find it on the, see if it's on the town website, but there is a map that I have, I can share with everybody. It's not, it's one that our organization made. It's surface water resources for the town of Nottingham. It looks like it's 2014. It probably would be good to, maybe I talk to Jackson about getting this updated, but it has all of your first, second, third, fourth, and fifth order streams. It shows the HUC 12 watershed boundary, the 100-year floodplain, which is your special flood hazard protection areas, wetlands that are known based on GIS observation, they're not mapped. It shows watersheds. So it's good information, but then it's also regulatory in a way, because it does show the streams and the distances from the streams, and correct me if I'm wrong, it depends on the order of the stream, right? So so if I do get a plan, I will try to see if it's in one of these areas, and, but I guess maybe I got used to Sue just being on top of it, and she would always know right away what, you know, which one it was near, so she would always remind us of that. But you can look yourself.
From a conservation standpoint, yes.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking there's other stuff that might be around too that, I don't know, but just,
There's nothing else regulatory wise. There are, I mean, anybody's willing to, welcome to comment on an application, any organization or individuals. But this does have a regulatory component because certain order streams have setbacks.
right.
So you offered, yes, I'd love to be able to get a copy of that.
Yeah,
can, just send it to
I'll,
me.
if I'll
Email.
either send it to you or I'll send you the link if it is one of the ones that are on the town's
But it
website.
is 10 years old.
It is 10 years old.
And I know that my land changed, 2 weeks ago. That rain was brutal. My driveway's not the same.
The only thing that would change is probably the wetlands. Everything else, streams, water body locations, they're all gonna be the same. The floodplain's gonna be the same.
Yeah.
It would just be wetlands, because that's always done through aerial imagery, and they just kind of start drawing a line where they think it is.
Okay.
But that does get updated, because the aerial imagery gets better, so.
As long as they don't fly over with a drone, because I do throw rocks at those.
So, to Mr. Evans' point, we received two regional impact legal notices from the town of Raymond. One is for an application they're hearing, which they'll next hear on July 18th. It's their application 2024-003 for Gemini Valve, a proposal for additions to existing buildings and site improvements. It's on 2 Otter Court, which I'm not familiar with, in Raymond. But their copy of their minutes for that, it sounds like the regional impact was determined for, the yes items that they voted for were impacts to known aquifers, negative impacts to another community's municipal water supply, and these are possibilities. But those were the two items they had mentioned. As a result of the review, it was determined that there's a potential for regional impact. Notice would be sent to Lamprey River Advisory Community and Rockingham Planning Commission for communities represented on the Lamprey River. So their motion was that surrounding communities be contacted along with any regional agencies. So it just gives us a chance to provide comment. We have no other authority over it, but we're allowed to provide written, comment and testimony to them.
Okay. Otter Court is located kind of behind the Ben Franklin, that plaza down there on Freetown Road.
There's a whole industrial area down there.
Yeah, so it's kind of behind there.
Yes.
And it's, from here, it's 6.8 miles away. It's probably about good solid 4 miles from the town border. It does sit on some sort of river that goes through there. I don't know what the name of that river is, if that's like, we're an upstream contributory of that, but,
It must be the river that feeds into the Lamprey watershed, 'cause it's,
right, but we're much we're upstream, not downstream of it anyway.
yeah. So we don't have to respond. I usually do send a letter. I think it's good practice to send a letter back from this board acknowledging that
Yeah.
and thanking them for the opportunity to comment. Either, we have no comments at this time, or, where it's potentially having impacts to an aquifer and watershed, it's just, would be to ensure that, all regulations are followed and to look to minimize any negative impacts to the, water.
When I saw those come in, I got a little mad at myself for identifying the one that they did before. And so now it seemed like, oh, hey, they're interested. Okay, well, we'll just send them along anything that comes up. Next time we'll get 3 or 4.
What was interesting about their form is that they, to determine a regional impact, they had a whole checklist of 10 or 12 different things. Is it gonna impact traffic, fire safety,
Right.
all these things, which I thought was pretty thorough and comprehensive, so
Yeah, I think we
I
usually
wanted
go
to
through
point that out.
5 or 6, so it's a good, maybe we look at something like that, for the future too.
Make a motion that we send the town of Raymond a notice that we have no comment. We reviewed their letter and have no comment.
Yeah, I guess all I'd like to say is, look to have the applicant, with like any application we'd have here, to minimize any kind of negative impacts to water quality. Would be my, piece of it.
I thought Alana's last letter was pretty good to copy that. It's my letter. For both of them. I don't know.
That's my letter. I just said I was.
No, I'm sorry, I'm sorry.
I try to never send anything direct. I try to always,
Yeah.
unfortunately for Alana, because it makes more work for the land use clerk,
Yeah,
is I send everything back through there.
I thought it was
in the
very good.
Land use office, and then it goes to Raymond, and that way it's on file here, and it's come from official channels. So yeah, I can mimic that.
Do we actually need a motion for that?
We don't, no. So the second one is, will be heard again in Raymond on August 15th, 2024 at 7 PM. And this is for their application PB 2024-011. I think it's P2 Onway Lake Development Phase 2. It's PII, or P2 is how I'm gonna assume it is. Site plan application is being submitted by Joseph Coronati and Jones Beach Engineers, Inc. on behalf of Shiv Shritha and Matthew Silverstein of Onway Lake Development LLC and Yano Properties LLC. Project proposes a 57-unit age-restricted condominium development as phase 2 of a 3-phase development at the property located at 15 Sergeant Drive in Raymond. Identified as tax map 20, lot 58, map 26, lot 1. Mr. Evans, if you're able to pull that, the address again was 15 Sergeant Drive. So in their minutes, let's see, their regional impact vote is for school impacts, which would not be us,
El-
Traffic.
Elderly, they don't have kids.
traffic generation, road networks, visual impacts, apparently, impacts to known aquifers, and these are, again, not that it will occur, but it may occur. Possibility for permitting for large groundwater withdrawal, I think there, it says, Mr. McLeod advised that this is to be determined, proposals to use private wells on site, which were designed for the original 111 single-bedroom seasonal units, which are now going to be year-round two-bedroom units. And negative impacts for other communities, municipal water supply,
Where is this on the map?
emergency
How
response
close
from
is it
abutting
to?
communities.
8 miles from here, it's on the other side of 101, down off of exit 4, and then Green Road and down there.
You can't get there from here.
Yeah, we'll find a way, but it's badly needed housing.
Yeah, yes, I
Region
agree.
needs housing even for 55-plus communities and for families.
Oddly and weirdly enough, there is a timeshare development on Onway Lake.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and they built these little tree houses. I don't know if this is near that or on the same
Like
site or
20
something.
years or-
It sounds like this was originally designed as 111 single-bedroom seasonal units, but now they're converting it to year-round two-bedroom units. Is the proposal, so,
And this is just phase 2.
of 3, yeah.
Yeah.
It's determined regional impact for the following entities, so Nottingham is listed in there specifically. So it could be because of the municipal services portion of it. You know, again, emergency response from budding communities is one of the ones that every member voted yes on. So on other regional impact notices, some of the concern from this town have been if there is traffic generation, especially if it's closer to the end off of 156, where that intersection with 27 doesn't seem sufficient anymore for the amount of traffic that is there when you have so there's no light, it's not controlled by a light or anything like that, so, since that is a route that many of our residents have to utilize, and possibility for our municipal, emergency personnel to have to respond to things over there as mutual aid, anything that potentially increases that risk is usually something we just, can add comment to, but
This is
for this one, that'd be.
pretty far away from there.
Yeah,
But
so
yeah,
I think
I,
municipal, mutual aid would be probably my concern here.
no.
Yeah, but it's also the commerce and economic hub of Raymond is in that area. So even if folks are gonna live on the other side of Route 101, they're still gonna come over to Ben Franklin's every now and then. You know, that kind of stuff. So yeah, there'll be an impact on that spot. I'm not sure if I'm in favor of putting any kind of a signal light there. After a while, we'll put up so many of them, it takes us 20 minutes to get 10 feet. You got too many stoplights.
Yeah, and that's state controlled anyways, so, I mean, those are two state routes, so the state, I'm sure, I don't know if it's on like a 10-year plan or anything at this point, but at some point, we'll probably have to do something there. But
Yeah, they're talking about doing it at either end, right? 152, 156, Route 4, they're talking about doing it there.
Yeah, yeah, and that's been, I know it's on the 10-year plan to do something over there too, but it's that's another piece. So on this one, I don't know if the
Won't
board
be
has
in
any
Nottingham though.
comment that they think we should add to them, or just thank them for the chance and no comment at this time, or just, our only concern is potential increase to mutual aid that may occur.
Yeah, I don't,
I think it's another no comment letter.
yeah,
Yeah,
I don't see mutual aid getting over there.
it happens, but
Yeah.
So that one, I'll just send a thank you on. We'll move forward. I think that was it for the regional impacts.
cool.
So I'll try to get that drafted, as soon as possible, over to Alana. All right, 2 sets of minutes, May 22nd and June 12th. We had appended the first set to tonight, or tabled them. I did have a couple of minor corrections. I'll let anybody else that wants to go first if they have any amendments. Otherwise,
This is for the,
either or both.
I have only comments on one of them. Let me see which one that was. I've just a couple of small corrections on the June 12th minutes. Can I go ahead with those?
Yeah, I've got,
I mean, if you've
I've got one for May 22nd. My only correction on May 22nd is line 83. Change the word customer to applicant.
I'm okay with that.
All right.
We like that you're customer service orientated.
Now I'll move on to June 12th.
Okay, the two small comments I have are just, I think, typos. The others present, there's a name Tim Phoenix, and I just think the spelling of Phoenix is O-E instead of E-O.
Who's here tonight, so it'll be easy to find.
Wait a minute, I can tell you. His brother was my best pal. Got him right here on Facebook. How does he spell
Oh,
it?
sorry, that's line 8. And then my other small edit is line 251, Frisbee Golf Course at Marston. Yep, Marston property, not Martin. I don't know. Small, we all know what it means, but you know.
All right, in my minor corrections, line 20, and maybe it was left off, but June 26th at 7 PM, that might have been left off. The motion, you're usually really good about capturing it correctly.
They spell it O-E, is that how you have it?
It's EO in the minutes, so I think
It
OE is the
OE, it's
correction,
supposed
yeah.
to be.
Line 109, I'd like to amend that to read as, Mr. Veal read off the list of possible conditions to be considered for conditional approval, and then move on from there. So we can read as, Mr. Veal read off the list of possible conditions to be considered for conditional approval. I think I have two more. Line 162, change is to are, but there are actually two cases to. And then line 205, well, 204 to 205, currently it reads as, he stated that they would need to show that the lot is not pre-existing, so we'd get rid of the word not. So he stated that they would need to show that the lot is pre-existing non-conforming, and they were not making a non-conforming lot or increasing in non-conformity. That's all I had. Anybody else? Not a motion to approve the minutes of those two dates as amended would be appropriate.
I will second that motion.
Oh, I didn't make a motion. I was just saying.
One of us has to make the motion.
Sorry, I will make a motion to approve the meetings from May 22nd and June 12th with the amendments stated.
I'll second that.
That's a motion by Mr. Stevens and a second by Mr. Cummings. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Abstain.
Abstention? So it's 5-0-1 is a code on that. The chair can make motions, I just tend to, general, I think, practice is oftentimes the chair will try to refrain from being the one that has to, that makes the motion to try to not sway. But I can, but I usually report it. All right, select board staff member updates. Mr. Davies.
All set.
Ditto.
Mr. Evans?
I always have comments, but I'm gonna pass tonight.
The only thing I can think of is we're probably getting close to the time of year we're thinking about, or unless we already have it on there, the joint ZBA, planning board.
It's on the calendar, I thought of that today,
See?
in August.
So
Remember
that-
Nickelback?
That's coming up in August, where we have, oh yeah, August 28th is gonna be our joint meeting with ZBA, Concom, building inspector if they wanna be here, any of the town department heads that wanna come in. We usually take a night to review zoning, go over anything like that, potential subdivision, site plan reg updates, things of that nature that are coming out. So we'll try to make sure we have an agenda out at least 2 weeks before, if not a full month before that night, with any items that we're considering, so it can be a productive night.
Where is that meeting held?
Right here.
You gonna put all those board members on this table around
We're
here?
gonna be sitting really close together.
Man, oh man, okay.
Yeah, so, we squeeze, it's okay. Yeah, so any of those, since it's our meeting, it's chaired by me, and then the vice chair of the ZBA is usually up here as well. So that'll be the 28th. That's all I have. I can't think of anything else.
Can I get my nickel back?
No.
I got a dime.
Nothing from me.
I'm a little confused as to why is it's our purview to allow somebody to put a roof on a building. It's up to the planning board.
Yeah, so I don't wanna get, it's tough, cause it's case specific.
Not up to the planning board.
No. So, I'm talking generality, so regardless of a specific, anytime there's a change to if there's an approved site plan, so anything that falls under our site plan, we have our authority spelled out.
But we don't have an approved site plan.
So anytime, if we had an approved site plan for something, and there's a change to that, technically that requires an amended site plan, so it does fall to us.
I see, okay.
Um,
And that's what they're gonna bring us.
That's
when
probably the
we
quickest
go
way to say it. So
Yes,
if there's not
I
a approved
gotcha.
site plan, you're in a different
Okay.
world, but in general, that's how it ends up on our plate, is the building inspector, someone's gonna look for building permits and occupancy permits and things like that, if they're gonna look for an approved site plan.
All right, thank you. I have nothing else to add, Blair.
Yeah, tomorrow is the annual meeting for SRPC. Is anyone gonna be able to make it?
I wanted to, but
I might get up there. 11, at Three Chimneys, 11 to 12?
Yep, 11 to 12. Oh, no, I think it's 11 to 2.
11 to 2, oh.
Yeah, because we have a panel. It's a little schmoozing, networking, and then
a
we
lot of
have.
food to eat.
Yeah, then there's food to eat, and then we have a panel. This year will be a 10-year retrospective of SRPC's 10-year plan. Kind of look back and see how well we did. What did we accomplish? What were our accomplishments? So,
Is this the one at the Three Chimneys?
it is, yeah.
Sad that I can't make it, I wanted to go.
Not a big deal, just, I will be there, as will all the staff. Otherwise, I think there's another, I gotta double check, there might be another series, in that housing series of the state, planning office doing, like webinars, lunch webinars. I can't remember if that's tomorrow or not. What I do want to point out is that the state recently passed a bill that, a few different bills, one of which was like an omnibus bill, so it captured a bunch of things. There were changes to housing regulations at the state level. A few of them, just off the top of my head, were that it used to be that houses need to have sprinklers, but 1 and 2 families were exempted. Now 3 and 4 families will be exempted. They did create an initiative that a regulation law, whatever, that allows towns like yourself to pass at town meeting something that would grant you all, a body like you, or the select people, as the zoning amendment authority. So you could have town meeting vote to have this board be the final board for voting on zoning amendments, not town meeting. So right now it has to go through town, you guys have to do your part, but then it goes to town meeting. Whereas it could be something that finishes here.
So it would just be the public hearings and then a vote by the board?
Yeah, I don't recall, and I don't even know if it's spelled out explicitly what needs to be done, but yes, it says that the towns now have the ability to grant themselves at a, I don't want to say lower level, but at a different level to be able to do that.
I think that's important because, it takes months and months of planning to make a small change and going to town planning board, town meeting, and you need to start planning 5 months ahead or more to kind of even get there, and there's a process, so I think that's a good thing.
And little hiccups can hang you. I've had that happen
Yeah.
in Stratford where I worked. I mean, one time it was a procedural thing that they did. They didn't dot an I or cross a T, and then they have to wait another year.
Another year, right?
But, even at a different scale, yes, you're right, it is. When I first moved in, started working in the town, I was dealing with town meeting for the first time in my life. A former planner said, it's like our Super Bowl. All year long as a planner, you're trying to get to these zoning amendments, and then you have that one day, that one night where you have to get everything right, you gotta play your heart out, and so, it is interesting, but it's just something for you to consider, however this community wants to go.
You don't have a town meeting.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, well, it's still considered town meeting, even though it's not like it's the SB2 version of it, so it's a
Town
deliberative
meetings
session.
still exist.
Yeah,
It's not-
that's me calling it town meeting as a catch-all. Yeah,
Okay.
I apologize,
All right.
yes.
All right.
Yeah, I understand there's different charters and stuff, but, yeah, that's,
Because now we have a meeting that just decides what's going on the ballot,
Yeah.
what's going on for warrant articles and things like that.
Deliberative session.
Deliberative, it puts it in front of the people.
Not many.
I know.
If we can get more information on that for that joint meeting, that'd be really helpful.
yeah, yep.
Yeah, that'd be great. And then, I think I don't know if we've gotten further on it, but during a prior case, an applicant had pointed out that there's been changes in some of the RSAs or the, what the board's purview is or ability to like bond, and I think there was another couple of items that were pointed out, that we're kind of looking into to see. The way I read it was a little bit different than the interpretation, but that's me. It seemed like we still could require it, just as to changes, like as to when it can be collected. So,
Yes, the bonding stuff that Joe put in.
yeah. So,
The only other one that was of significance was you can no longer require like 2 parking spaces per unit for studios and 1 bedrooms. It has to be one and a half. That's the most you can require. That's typically more for cities, more dense areas. I think when you have 2-acre minimum lot zoning, you're not gonna have a problem finding a couple parking spots, but it is interesting to see, that, I think the state of New Hampshire is taking the housing housing crisis serious. And, they put in some legislation that can be tools for communities. These all still have to technically be signed by the governor, so they're not law yet, but it does seem like these were, ones that
On the ticket.
had enough vetting that they'll probably make it through. Like the ADU stuff where you could have, 2 ADUs required, have to require detached, things like that, that did not pass. Those were the more, iffy ones.
the only other thing, with that is, back to the sprinklers, it'll be interesting to see the verbiage of that, because my understanding is, yes, a town can't require sprinklers in households. We can require fire protection, which is where our cisterns come in, and then usually the applicant will say, I'd rather do sprinklers because of, cost or whatever. I think there has been case law before when areas are considered unprotected by fire stations, or we have one fire department on this end of town that's probably more than 5 miles from a very good chunk of the town, as our, would be like Raymond and such like. So I think there's still probably instances where either very long driveways, very remote things, where a town could still require sprinklers and have it be upheld on a single family, 2-family, or whatever. But I just mentioned that, just not that it's gonna come up, but in case it does, I think we do have some purview.
That's where you'd, like on Pawtuckaway Ridge there, they have sprinklers instead of a cistern. Because sometimes it's a problem to find a place to put it, and, it costs $120,000 to put in a cistern, so, you pay $6,000 per house to put in a sprinkler, when you're building,
Get it back when you sell the house.
No, you don't, but, the end buyer, I'd sold a bunch of houses up in Ware and, with sprinklers, and the homeowner's insurance was like half of what the average cost was out there. It was amazing, What this other sprinkler thing was that, they have, like, if you have a 3-family and you wanna add a 4th unit, you have room in your building, you had to put in a whole sprinkler, which might cost $100,000 to put in, and it made adding the extra unit prohibitive, so they lobbied with the fire marshal to say, hey, we need more units, can we bump this up? They're trying to get it up to 5 units, but they brought it down to 3 or 4. So it's apt to add a lot of units. I know of a particular building where they're gonna be doing that. They're gonna add a 4th unit, and they didn't because they had to add a sprinkler before, and it was $100,000. So it's just a way to get more units in, probably more in the city. But in this town, we have this 8-unit conversion on existing large buildings for multifamily, where you could convert a single family to up to 8 units. which was put in the, it looked like it came from the master plan way back when, and then it was put into a zoning ordinance, but, so if somebody went to take this big farmhouse and make more than 3 units, they would want to put a sprinkler in, and you can't waive fire safety codes in the state, is what I understand, so they would have to do that, so.
That makes sense. And, you know, like the 1.5 parking spaces. I think I know some cars, I've seen many cars do that. They use 1.5 parking spaces.
Yeah, and obviously the conversion thing, I think that was great. The intent of that was to preserve the large old farmhouses and things like that, stuff that were tore down, that you could convert them and keep the aesthetic of it and the rural community. You know, it's
Plus, people don't have, 14 kid families
right.
anymore. Certain religions still do.
Back many moons ago, there was talk from the state that septic effluent needed to stay within the town boundaries at some point. It never did happen. But now that homes are coming in this particular town quite a bit, and we're building very large homes typically, gotta be very large septic systems. I'm wondering if the town is back looking at any of that, or the state is looking to reapply that in some fashion at some point in time?
I'm unaware of anything within the town that's looking at that. I think it's probably got a lot of pushback from communities of, so basically septic waste, you know, and where is that disposed of when it's pumped?
Sometimes you
The
can
number of
create
hou-
contracts
Yeah.
with other towns that allow them to come in and that kind of stuff. Nottingham, as best I understand, does not have a contract with anybody.
That's a good question.
And it sounds as if some towns are actually putting in a moratorium on building homes based upon the septic effluent going someplace.
Water and both
Yeah.
sanitary, sewage and water are problems in a lot of areas, but
I-
it's a good question. And obviously I think the pushback came from the fact that I can't remember, it's a very high percentage of the number of houses in the state that are serviced by on-site sewage disposal. So I think that's where you've heard, I think it was 10 years ago, I think when I went to one of the OEP conferences and someone from the state was there saying, your town has over 5,000 people, wait for it, you're gonna be required to put in a wastewater facility. It's like
Yeah, Nottingham is on.
5, 10 million, $20 million, probably, you're not gonna see that happen.
Yeah,
Um,
if you got the right land and that
yeah,
kind of stuff to
but-
do it on, I don't think we even have that.
But I think, to your point, I think potentially getting a contract like that in place sooner than later would probably be good, but then it goes back to, you know, even the companies that come in and pump in their contracts for where they're gonna dispose of it.
Yeah, there's a lot to it.
We've seen that cost escalate in this town, you know, almost triple
Yep.
in the past, well, since COVID. And it has to do with the wastewater plant in Epping, is what I was told, and that there were issues there and they couldn't accept or receive any material. So the folks here that
A
do
bunch
it,
of towns are
they're shipping it to Concord.
Or Rochester, and you have to
Right.
wait, you have to get there early, because you gotta be the first one in, otherwise, yeah, they have a
Yeah.
limit for the day.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's a bigger discussion, and again, I guess, probably a discussion with our state reps potentially, and, you know, something else for the select board to think about. But for us, our planning purposes, I think it's something to keep on the back burner in our minds, that could come down the line.
So there is another state law that's in the passing stages, and basically it's like the shoreline, not the shoreline, the site plan approval for, I know I'm naming that wrong right now. When you sell a house on the waterfront, they used to require that you,
Septic, yeah.
you do a septic design and, have someone come and do a survey on the site. But now they're actually taking forward steps to say, not only do you need to do that, but you need to have a septic designer, if it's more than 20 years old, go in there and design a system, and they have to actually check to see if it's failed or not. And if it is, then the buyer has up to 6 months to replace it. It's required, and this is for this cyanobacteria part of it. There's like 11% or something is coming from housing on lakes and water. So that's coming. The only thing we're gonna see, I think, in the town, the realtors are handling that and gonna be dealing with that mostly, but the only thing we'll see with the town is that we'll get letters that say, we did this review, and it's gonna have to go somewhere in the town. I don't know if we're gonna see that or where the heck that's gonna land.
Right, select board and
Yeah,
the building inspector, because they're the health and safety side. All right, I'm gonna get us out of here before the rain starts, I hear the thunder. Alana, do you have anything for us, besides the plans to sign before everybody leaves?
Yes.
Okay, so I think that's it. I wanna get us out before we get drenched.
I think that's a Harley.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
All right. I was seeing the clouds, I knew there was thunder on the
Thunderous
thing, so.
I know, it's up front.
On signing the plans, am I, Lars? There's only two of you that were here for those plans. Was that?
Technically, it only needs my signature, but we've always signed as a board, but, so as long as I sign, it's fine.
Okay.
So if you just choose not to
I
sign
won't
it,
get wet then.
that's okay. We do not need a quorum to sign the plans.
Okay.
All right.
To adjourn.
We are so adjourned. It is 8:25. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Nice to have an early one.